Alright, what's going on there, average gamers? We are going to dive into Final Fantasy XIV, like I had said. If you've never played this game before, there's a lot involved with it. I mean, there's just so much that even I still don't know. I have a level 70 character, so I'm just finishing out the campaign there and getting into Endwalker. So the important part about this game and why I like it, at least me specifically, is because it is very story driven. So that kind of has some issues with it for some people and not others. The reason most people do have a problem with it, though, is because, of course, you literally can't just go out and do whatever you want. You have to get to certain points in the campaign before you can do other things. And there's some side things, I guess you could call them, that eventually will unlock other dungeons and do other things. So there's a lot involved with this game. It's a lot of fun, though. I enjoy it, specifically for the fact that you can do everything. You can literally be every job that you want, and you can do all of the crafting that you want. I mean, it's just literally up to you. I have ignored a majority of the crafting, even though it is a very cool style. I just don't think that it has a giant play into, I guess, gear and things like that. However, I could see the advantage of it when it comes to other jobs and other classes that you want to play. So if you're looking to do multiple jobs and multiple classes, then maybe getting the crafting is a good idea, just so you can kind of keep up with your level of the job for gear. You could also get it through, I guess, some of the dungeons and stuff, but you gotta get to certain levels. So, I don't know. Me personally, definitely by far one of my favorites, and probably number one as far as what's out now. And I know some people will probably disagree with me on that, and that's okay. I mean, to each their own, everyone has their own opinion. I just personally like this one for the replayability and the fact that I don't have to make a ton of different characters. Now, I still might make a character to kind of like have for, I don't know, streaming and or YouTube videos, but for the moment, I'm going to play the character that I already have. And there's two characters that I primarily play. One of them is with a friend of mine, Mono, who I'd mentioned earlier in a different video. Because this game is story driven and story oriented, it does make it a little more difficult to play with friends, because there's certain points where it'll just make you do things on your own, and that's going to be dependent on your job and what the quest or whatever it is that strikes you to do. But when it comes to a majority of the dungeons and the raids and the trials, and I mean, like, there's a lot that you can do in this game, and you can do PvP, and I don't feel like it's broken. I don't feel like it's really super heavy gear dependent, which is kind of nice, at least in my opinion, that some random person can't just come along and kind of like just completely trash on you. I will say a lot. I've noticed that I do that. That's kind of my bad, my fault. It's just, I'm not the best speaker in the world, but I'm going to continue through it. You know, if it bothers people, I understand. Maybe make it a drinking game. Every time I say it, you take a drink. And I wouldn't blame you for doing it. I really wouldn't. But, so again, this is Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm sure, at least at this point, a majority of people have already played this game. Like, who hasn't, quite frankly? Just because it's been around for quite some time. And I know that originally when it launched, there was a lot of people that said that it was not so good. I wouldn't know. I didn't actually play it like that much in the beginning. I know I had beta tested it for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 maybe even? I don't know. It's been a long time. And it has been out for quite some time. It's a good game, and it has survived because I think of the aspects of the things that they did. Like I said, it's very story driven, so anybody that's getting into it fresh will have a lot to do and a lot of catching up to do. But the beauty of this game is, even though I can be, say, level 70, and I get rewards for even still doing some of the older stuff. Like the original dungeon, or the very first one that everybody has to do, or some of the endgame content of the other stuff. As a higher end character, you can queue into those for different rewards for things that are kind of current to your level. Basically like a token system. So it kind of still keeps that content fresh. And the best part is, as I said, like, so if I go into it as a level 70 character and it's the level 16 dungeon per se, it will push me down to level 16 and I will only have access to my level 16 abilities, but I'll still have all my gear. So I won't have to worry about like the whole over-gearing thing. Which is, again, I don't know. I think that's a very cool way of keeping it going and still focusing on the content, or rather the campaign that they push, so you can't just kind of skip it. There are ways to skip it, in the sense that there is stuff I think you can buy in their MOG shop or whatever, to bypass it for one character, which to some people that might be worth it, but I really do think that the story is really good, so far, at least. And they do like to nod and do other things that involve some of their other games. I know one of the trials for the last expansion anyway, not Endwalker, because I, again, haven't gotten that high yet, was they did some of the Final Fantasy VII weapon bosses, which would just be cool to see. And I know the previous expansion before that, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember all of them. I think it was Stormblood, something like that. Anyway, it was good because it did the same similar thing. It just threw in like some of the fights from Final Fantasy VI or 3 in America, if you will. Was, Kefka and the Ghost Train. Like those were really cool. They were just cool to see and just kind of fun. I like that they do that with this game. They do have endgame content, and they do have stuff that's actually considered pretty hard and difficult. And I mean, I haven't actually experienced them because, again, I'm an average gamer. But I have seen them, and they're really worth it. I mean, it seems very interesting. It's a change to the entire mechanics of what's going on, and at certain points they may even force you to see some of that. But a lot of the times they do keep it separate. I personally think that this game is also very, very pretty, very detail-oriented. I mean, they put a lot of work into this, and unlike some of the other MMOs, I mean, I will kind of bash out WoW on this, because personally I think that they haven't done much to really help any of the newer players other than get them caught up to current content. And with this, yeah, there's not exactly anything that they add new for lower end content, but they still keep it relevant. They still keep it, they still keep it fun, that you might want to go back someday and do. Whereas when you get to a certain point with like WoW, you can solo some of the older raids and literally one-shot things or two-shot, and it's not as fun because you don't really get to see it. Whereas with this, they force that level drop, and they force you to more or less deal with it as a current content. And I just think that's a cool concept, because it still keeps it fun and maybe not fresh, but for anybody that comes in late or didn't get to experience it when it was around, they still could if they wanted to. And I personally, like I said, think that's extremely cool. So as far as MMOs go, I think this one is definitely done the best. For most players out there can probably agree. I know it's not exactly the best. I guess it's still a personal opinion on what you consider to be best and what you like, but I like that this is constant and it's always relevant no matter what you're doing. And if you get bored with the particular job you're playing, you can always switch to a different one. You don't have to create a new character. You can just go and get a different job. So it kind of makes inventory management a little bit of a pain, but I like that. I love that I can just do what I want to do. If I'm tired of whatever level I'm at and I want to go back and try something else, I can. I'm not 100% on how many different types there are, but they do separate melee and range DPS as something completely, they are separate. And then there's tanking and healing. And I primarily focus on healing because that's just what I like to do. My current not max, but the highest level character I have is an astrologian, I believe is what it's called. And it's a healing type. A very interesting healing type. They have changed it to where it's not nearly as unique as some of the others, but it's still pretty cool. Now, originally when the game came out, there was two healers, maybe three. No, I think there was two, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on any of this because I'm not the best with the facts on this game, because there's so much that I still have not gotten to do or experience, including a lot of the older content. But I believe now there's 4 healer types, and there are either four tank types or 5 maybe, and then the rest are DPS styles. And there is a blue mage in this game, and if you know anything about some of the other Final Fantasies, the blue mage is just kind of a for fun. As far as I understand, with the MMO, it's not something you want to do for later, or even if you can. I'm not 100 on that one. But it's still just another little fun thing and cool stuff to do. It's stuff to collect, or, it just keeps you engaged with the game. I have done PvP with this, like I said, and I do like this particular style. It's a little strange, and I maybe don't 100% get it, but I do like it. And so I'll probably do some from time to time, but maybe not necessarily like that. So more information kind of involving this channel, which I maybe did not explain very much originally, and I probably should have, is that I will probably be making a majority of the videos. I'm not going to say that I'm going to make all of them. And I'm also not going to say that I'll always have time to get everybody involved, but I had named all the names from the last video because those are the people that will probably make appearances, and if honestly any of them wanted to make their own, I'd be in favor of that, and I hope anybody watching these would also watch that. So I know I haven't really done a whole lot, but let's dive into this. I can't honestly... I'm just going to try my best to keep the videos at a certain length. But I like playing games because this is my hobby, and so doing that I might kind of lose track of where I'm at, and so sometimes the videos will be longer or shorter. I'm going to see if I can't get through a section of the chapter content, I guess, for this game. So let's dive into that. Like I said, so every with the main campaign, you have to go in order for certain things, and this is a little bit of the drawback on it, is as you get to the end game content, if you will, they kept adding things after that to kind of help, elongate the game, which works fine. It really does. It adds new dungeons or new raids or new trials or whatever you want to call them to the game, but it also kind of slows down your progression to the next expansion if you haven't kept up with it. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing because it still just expands upon the story, and it also usually drives a reason for why you're moving into the next one. But that's just kind of an example of why there's a little drawback to the game. As I said, I'm a devil's advocate, so I see both sides of things. But usually in the whole, I still will give you, based on my opinion, what I think of it. And as far as MMOs go, I can't say this enough, but this is probably one of the best, if not the best, that's out there. I know that WoW still has a large following, and most people that like it will still probably like this game. And they probably play both. I really don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised because this one's still really good. WoW's just a little easier to get into, I guess, probably at its current state. And then the classic servers are fun and all, but I don't know, it's more of a nostalgia thing. I don't see why most people would put their focus into that other than that. It is nostalgia, you know, it's something that they had done when they were younger and they just want to see it again, and they love that it's challenging again because it's the current content. So it's like a smart idea, but like with a game like this, you don't have to worry about something like that because it'll still stay current no matter what level you're at. You could still go back and do it for fun. Now, granted, you might not get the gear, you might not need the gear at that point, but that's okay. You know, it again still stays fun, in my opinion. So let's just dive in. This is what it looks like, you know. You gotta kind of pick what area you're gonna be at. So we're gonna go to North America, and I honestly have no idea where I'm at, but I should have characters. Get the private. Can always change it later if I'm incorrect. Yep, looks like I am incorrect. Oh, well, this is a little embarrassing, but I think I have to go all the way back. I honestly do not know where my characters are. Kind of the beauty of a new computer. I can't remember. Oh, there we are. Okay, so, yep, this is my guy. I know it seems really stupid, but I got the Astrologian, and I'm level 80, but 90 is now the cap. So I'm a little behind. Pretty common at the moment. So supposedly the last expansion went over extremely well, almost too well that they weren't quite expecting everything to be backed up. But from what I hear, no, from what I've experienced, quite frankly, is that it's a lot better. I mean, 15, you gotta wait a little bit, no big deal. So I'm not gonna try to even explain half of the things that are going on, because quite honestly, there's just a lot. So I will have to do some tweaking to my UI because apparently it has been a while. So anytime you want to do that, right here is HUD layout. They make it nice and simple. You can stack them together. You can activate ones that aren't. And then if things just get in the way, you can move them. I usually ran with 3, so that's why it looks that way. You can always lock and unlock so you can move things around. Do something real quick. Alright. That way people can still hear me, but also still hear the game. Because the music, I mean, it's just like any other Final Fantasy game. They put a lot of work and dedication into it, and I mean they really did, music and all. So anytime you're curious of where you're at in the current main scenario quest is up here. And then of course here's your map. And these little things you'll find out throughout the world that you can travel to. Yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but as you can see I have a decent amount. Maybe I'm not rich in comparison to some other people, but you know, doesn't cost a ton in comparison to what you usually get even just per normal quest. So Alright, any of these are, of course, quests or side quests. Anything you see like this means that it's locked behind something, usually either main story or something along those lines. And, or it's locked behind a side quest. I mean, basically it's locked, and you've got to do something to get it out. So as I said, I'm an astrologian, so everything I have here is my interface, but man is this messed up, and I'm gonna have to do some work on that, probably off screen, off camera. But I have to see what everything does before I get moving. Okay, I can at least work with that. At least until I get to the next trial. Everybody has sprint, so there's always a way to move faster. Actually, I messed up. That Adoy is Joe. He had kind of appeared in the last video, but now you've seen him. He'll become famous, maybe, doubt it. Alright, so as I said again, I'm going to have to do some tweaking to my layout. I didn't realize that it would require me to change all that. Oops. Wrong area anyway. So I'm not even going to try to describe each of the different healing classes or the ranged or melee classes. I mean, literally everyone plays a part, but usually there's some sort of counterpart to them. Not always necessarily exactly, but you know, the reason I had picked up Astrologian is, at least at the time, it was a combination of the other two healers, which were, I think, the only two they had in the game at the time. So I just liked that idea of being able to kind of play both. And originally, one was more like, they all had strong healing. They both had strong healing. But one of them had a heal over time, which really helped things, and then the other one had bubble/absorption style stuff. And as an astrologian, I used to be able to do both. And I still can, but it's now more on a cooldown, instead of just kind of switching between which one I want to do. Which, personally, I thought was cool. There is a new healer to the game, and I don't remember what it's called, and it doesn't super matter, because maybe at some point I'll play it, but at least right now I enjoy the one that I have. I will try my best not to skip movies.
Foiled again. If I cannot imbue the infernal thing with my power via magical means, we may need to devise a way to infuse the vessel with my blood after all. Art thou unwell?
Or perhaps a brief respite. It wouldn't do to overtax yourself.
I'm fine. And given to stubbornness, I'm afraid. Especially when I have a stake in the outcome. The dream again.
A recurring dream. They do so fascinate me. Might I trouble you for the details?
I have always dreamed of it. Fire falling from the heavens, and the city, nay, the whole world ablaze.
Indeed. Could Emmett Selk have found a way? Precious few possess memories of the final days.
The final days.
Why, yes. Admittedly, my knowledge is mostly second-hand, but if you are interested, I will gladly tell you the tale. The tale of the world's end.
Alright, so I mean, sometimes this game will do that. It'll go back and forth between characters, and some are good, some are bad, some are you have no idea, and I just reveal that to you later. I understand that that video was probably pretty confusing, because obviously I'm into the story already, but I kind of rushed through a lot of this on this character just because at the time I was trying to reach current content and try to, you know, just experience it and see it, because that's just generally who I am. However, you know, it is a story-driven game. It doesn't mean that I ignored it completely, it just means that I did not pay nearly as much attention to it as I should have. So, as you can see here, in order to undertake this quest, you must first complete the Crystal Tower quest series. Legacy of Alog. See? That's the main story, but I have to do something separate in order to continue on with it. That's just generally how this game kind of goes. It's not always such a pain, but sometimes it is. This is probably because I had finished out what was considered a chapter before, and it introduced this type of thing that I needed to do. And so they want me to see it before I can proceed on to the next chapter that they had released afterwards. They do stuff like that from time to time, and as you go through the main story, you'll just kind of see that. It's way more prevalent once you start reaching max levels of what those expansions or games were. You know, like 50 was big, because it was the end of the first game, of the base game. So I don't know if it's because they didn't have an idea what they were going to do next, but I'm pretty sure they did. I'm almost positive they did. They just literally rebuilt this game from the ground up with the whole Realm Reborn. So with that, they probably needed more time to flesh out how they were going to get their next expansion. Plus, it was the base game, and you know, if base games don't really work out, it's not like they're going to just throw in for another expansion, or any expansion rather, if, you know, the numbers just aren't hitting it. It's a thing, you know, it's pretty common, especially for MMOs. But I feel like with Final Fantasy, it's a large enough following, there's enough people that know these games, and I mean, I even still have pretty much all of the original ones up to 10? Yeah, I want to say 10. Because I enjoyed a lot of that turn-based combat, and I still do, they just don't really make it anymore. It's just not a thing. So, I personally would love to see more of those styles of games, which is why I have, you know, like Octopath Traveler, because I like turn-based combat games. I don't dislike some of their newer freeform action. I know I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers here, but, you know, 13 I was not a giant fan of. And I know that was kind of like the first time that they had gone that route, or maybe it was 12, I really wouldn't know, I didn't play 12. But 13 I know was the one that actually really brought it forward, and I think it was done kind of poorly. However, I didn't play any of the ones after that other than 7 Remake, and I don't hate 7 Remake's freeform combat, because it's still kind of turn-based in a sense. You just get to kind of control where you move. Sorta. I know that even that's not necessarily true, but it's hard to explain, but at least the way that they had done 7 Remake, I really liked. Now, somebody told me that if I like that, I should try 15, because 15 is probably the one that brought it back to being a decent freeform action combat style, but I haven't had the time. I think I own it somewhere. I might even have it on Steam. Not 100% on that one, but that's okay. Maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. But let's continue on here. So I need to find out what that quest is. It says Legacy of Along. It's probably here in this city, but if it's not, I can always look it up. I'm not going to if I can help it. Maybe it is not here. That's not good. That's kind of my point here. I'm not the best at gaming, and there's a lot with this particular MMO that has people doing tons of things. So the sound might cut out here just a quick second, but I need to look this up, as much as I hate to admit it. Yeah, bear with me. I know this is probably where most people would pause, but I'm a little dumb, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to look it up. All right. Sorry, bear with me, guys. Okay. Alright, I think I see what to do here. So, I'm looking for... Actually, I have no idea what I'm looking for. Redo. Oh. Okay. Well, this is something that was a long time ago. Alright. So anytime you're trying to travel to a different area, you have this little drop down here. I'm looking for more donuts. This is the place that I can go to, so I'm going to go to Redmond's Toll. Apparently this was something that needed to be done back in... Well, could have been done several expansions ago. So, again, it's one of those cool little nifty features, excuse me, that they're bringing back that I have to figure out. Let me see. Oh, hold on. It's right here. So I need to do this little chain before I can move on. So anytime you have a marker like that, that means it is part of a quest that I'm currently on. Alright, and it's a little further away, so I can at least do this. Okay. There is that. And there's also flying mounts in this game, but I may not be able to do that here. Mostly because this is kind of an older area, and they kind of did that later. So, yeah, because I believe it's in general, and I'm not seeing it. Alright, so I just get to do this. Now, if it was an area that I could fly, which apparently I can, it would be that simple. The way that you can unlock flying in this particular game is a little strange, but it's not bad, because again, it makes you explore and it forces you to get out into areas that you normally wouldn't go to, per se. I mean, usually following along with the main story will lead you to the areas that you need to go to at some point. But, here we go. Alright, just because of time's sake, I'm actually going to skip a lot of this and then just kind of move on, because it's side quest, but yet at the same token it's not. It is required to do the main story, so why it's not just part of the main story, I don't know, but that's kind of how they do. They do stuff like this. says I need to survey areas. Let me see what I can pull up on my... Oh, okay, so this is a thing. Oh, okay. Alright. So this is doing a lot of stuff that involves the base game. It's hard to explain, but they, like I said, they did a lot of cool things that bring you back to older areas, so they don't just leave stuff completely unexplained. So with that, once you get to this area here, I'm pretty sure this is where I call him Ifrit. I know some people call him Ifrit or Ifrit. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. This is where he was in the base game. Or is this where Titan is? It's one of the two. So the original, you know, summons that were in their base games and stuff like that do make appearances. So, I don't know what I'm looking for. Maybe it's this, maybe it's not. Ah, okay. This game does do a lot of stuff to interact with the environment. So it's kind of a cool little side thing about this game, just throwing that out there. Okay, so this must have been where Titan is. So now we're going to look for where the other one is at. Okay, another older area. So here we go. This video may just be me kind of traveling and getting a side done before moving into the next chapter, but the next video I do will probably involve more of the main story, and I promise I'll have my layout changed. Whew, I didn't know that was a thing, so it kind of bums me out, but I'll get over it. It's not that big a deal. I know it seems cluttered, but that's because some of this I didn't even put on here, you know, and there's really no need to have all of it in some cases. Just depends on your gameplay style. As a healer, you may want to just constantly stay healing side, but in some cases it's not even really necessary, you know. So they do allow or really give you time to sit there and do some damage, but how much are you really doing? And mana is an issue, but not. I mean, every healing class I've seen usually has some way of bringing it back, which is here, and I don't believe this can ever expand except for maybe through certain buffs. See, also another drawback to an extent is the constant back and forth on the traveling. But I mean, it doesn't exactly cost that much. I mean, it caps out on how much it costs to travel, so that's kind of a cool thing. I think $999 is the max, and that's if you're like extremely far away. So I don't know, 3 million, almost 4. It's not really that big a deal to chunk 1,000 away just so you can save a ton of time. No, could you definitely travel between realms and between areas and all that? Yeah, but it's kind of a spider web, so even that's not what I would do in most cases. I would just take the easy way out. Okay, so it's literally making me go to all these different areas to get these crystals from the original summons, or at least that's what I would call them, from the base games, like the original Final Fantasies. So Ifrit, Titan, Shiva, and Leviathan. I mean, just there's an air one too, and I can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter. There's lots. Because they always nod back to their other games, and it's a good thing. I mean, for Final Fantasy fans, it's really cool to see. Because this is kind of like outside of their games, time frames, and stuff like that. I mean, because this is 14, and they've done events a lot that had 15 in it. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to see some of the appearances from some of their characters. So because I'm on a quest is why it's not throwing my level down, and that's why this is like extremely easy. Otherwise a healer is obviously not your best choice when it comes to that. And I had originally leveled as a archer / bard, because I believe it is an archer that turns into a bard. That's something that's hard to explain, but it was good. It was fun. The bard is a damage dealer, but I mean, it's also exactly what you would think as a bard. They also do have quite a few buffs that they throw out for other people. Now they're shortened buffs, but they are still very nice to have. I mean, quite honestly, there's not anything that I have played in this game, as far as class-wise, that has been boring. So I think pretty much there's always something for you to play, but you know, Mono is a great example of, one of the gamers. He gets bored with a certain class that he's playing really quickly. So this game was a good and bad thing for him. It was good because he gets to play so many different varieties and so many different classes, but it was bad because he can't stay focused on one. But at the same token to that, we started playing characters together, and so when we play together, that's the character class that we play together, and it doesn't really matter as long as we stay within the same general level and in the same general point in the main story. So, he can level all the different job types that he wants, or works on crafting, or whatever he wants to do, and we could still be at the same point in the game. So if I remember correctly, there is right here. This is all the different types of jobs. I was right, there's 4, and then Sage is the recent one. Yeah, so 4 and 4. And then these are all the different ones. There's a melee. I forgot about melee. And then no, I did say melee, didn't I? So there's melee, and then there's range, but then there's range magical, and then there's ranged physical. So the bard and the dancer play very, very similar, just based on what I've seen. Being honest, I obviously don't 100% know, but just kind of something to think about. And I'm not sure about the machinist. And then as far as magical, I think they just threw Red Mage in there because they just didn't know where else to put it. Because a Red Mage in this version is literally a jack of all trades. It does have like a melee version, and it does have casting version, and it does have, some minor healing, and like survivability. But I mean, so Red Mage might be a good one for people that don't know what they want to do to play. Just kind of a thought. But Blue Mage, as I said, this is, yeah, it's limited job, so that means that you can't really take it with you into, like, raids or dungeons or anything like that, or maybe you can for certain dungeons, but, I mean, it's something that only goes so far, and last I had checked was level 60, so, you know, kind of doesn't do you really a ton of good later anyway. But I have heard it's a lot of fun, and it's something kind of cool. A Blue Mage, in better terms, is just it learns abilities from monsters that use the ability on them, and so they get like this giant list of different abilities that they can do. So it's a cool idea, and why they threw it into this MMO is maybe just because they wanted it for fun. You know, I mean, that kind of does make some sense. So the Reaper is also one of the newest ones that they added in. It was the Sage and the Reaper. And the Reaper, from what I gathered, is melee oriented, but it's kind of similar to like a Necromancer. More like a melee path Necromancer in Diablo 3 is probably a good way to describe it. But I don't know. I have not played it, as you can tell. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe somebody's just going to comment nothing but wrong. Just like, nope, you're terrible at this game. Well, I'm not terrible. I'm average. So again, I'm just trying to blow through this, mostly for time's sake, and see what I can do here. So let's see here. I think I have to continue, unfortunately. Yeah, I think I have to continue on with whatever quest that he may have. So let me take a look. Alright, I'm gonna, I guess, give it a go. I'm literally gonna try and speed this as quickly as possible. But I am approaching an hour mark, so some of this was just me kind of rambling, and I apologize, and I promise with the next one I won't do that exact thing. I will at least keep it more brief and just try to keep going with the gameplay. So, again, I hope people are enjoying this, and if they're not, I apologize. I don't exactly know what I'm doing, and that's okay, because I'm just here for fun. And I hope you guys are too, but, you know, this might not be everybody's channel, if you know what I mean. I'm apparently... Where do I need to go? Is it up the stairs? I'm not seeing where I need to go, which is kind of upsetting to me. Ah, is it the steps of... No. I'm literally going in circles. Ah, no, I am in the right area, so... Goldsmith skill. So, that's another slight annoyance with this game, but anytime you're in a major city, you see these little symbols here. Alright, they're just like quick ways to travel throughout the city, because you can't mount in cities, in most cities. And I get it, I do. It's kind of nice, because it just kind of like helps not bog things down. But this is kind of new. This definitely wasn't here when I was originally here. It used to just be just one giant list and you kind of had to guess. So this is nice and new and very helpful. And it takes you there, and then even if you're like right on, you can just click on it. It's kind of cool. But either way, when it comes to traveling around cities, you usually don't have to do a ton of running around. You can just travel that way. Now, I believe you, unless they've changed it, which they may have, you have to at least get there first. You know, like you have to see it first and then like activate it, and then once you have them all activated, you can go through the network or whatever it's called. Alright, like I said, I'm gonna try and skip all this. and see what I can do. Okay. No, I don't want to join the Goldsmiths Guild. Okay, that's fine. Literally, they could take all of my money just to get this to move faster. Looks like that's not going to happen, though, and we're probably not going to see a whole lot of actual gameplay. Man, time really does escape quickly, doesn't it? I know I could go further than an hour, but I'm trying not to. I'm really trying my best not to do something like that. Because I don't know how many people actually sit through this whole video, and I feel like not many. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that's where I'm going to keep it at, though. I'm going to try to keep it within an hour mark. Try. Because otherwise, that's just that's a lot of time to dedicate even just to watching it. I mean, have I sat down and watched some of the, like 4-hour and 8-hour compilations of certain things? Yeah, I have. Mostly because it was just kind of like background noise, but it doesn't matter. Even I thought that was kind of a bit, So. Okay, I gotta rescue someone, so. Found it. There's always a wedge. I mean, this is nothing because I'm such a high level, but man, this probably would have been a little difficult not high level. And especially as a healer. Another thing to mention, though, is that some jobs that they added in after the original game, or base game, or whatever you want to call it, Realm Reborn, which is, I think, what a lot of people call it, they made the jobs start at higher levels. And not all of them, but a good chunk of them. I think the Red Mage starts at level 50. But sometimes these jobs you have to be a certain level before you can even see them. So I think that might be one of those that you have to be level 50 before you can even see it. Could be wrong. Maybe it's some other level. I don't know. But they don't just give you access to literally everything right away. Like I had said, sometimes you've got to be able to go to certain areas in the main story before you even can become a samurai or something. These are just examples. I don't actually know. Actually, I think samurai might be one of those that is level dependent, but I don't know about the new ones, obviously, because I have not played with them. So maybe they require level blah character 2, maybe they don't. And maybe they start at level 1, maybe they don't. I have no real clue. A lot of the expansions and stuff, when you went to the pre-order them, gave you experience boosting items, which are extremely helpful for leveling out the lower end jobs that if you want to. But again, this is just me trying to rush through it, and I'm trying to hang in there until we get that. I honestly have no idea if I even need to do this. Let me double check. So I know it said it somewhere where you had to do certain things before you could do the next one. And I don't want to have to keep going back to the same person to see if I've done enough. But maybe I can just click on the name of the quest. Alright, so it's blue now, so I might be able to do it. Alright, I might have hit enough to do that, so I guess for now I'm just gonna call it. I appreciate everybody being here, whoever actually stuck it out. And yeah, till next time. Have a good day.